television. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Stephanie Porcellato. This is our first live conversation in a series where you can learn various aspects of creating community TV. Today's discussion revolves around storytelling, and more specifically, what happens when the story you have started to produce changes and you need to pivot. So I want to introduce our very first guest on this series, Matt Lorenz, a producer with Shaw Spotlight in Fort McMurray. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, Steph, thanks for having me. I'm really excited, very honored. Should be fun.
Yes, should be fun. Yeah. If anybody has questions tuning in, please feel free to throw those in the comments. We'll get to those a little bit later in the show.
Everybody
So
loves questions, right, Steph? Everybody loves questions.
we love questions. Questions are encouraged. Starting with my questions, we'll start with more of an easy one. What is your role at Shaw Spotlight?
Well, that is like literally as easy as you can get. I am a producer here in Fort McMurray, Alberta. So my role is kind of like working with the community and producing feature stories about people in the community and creating amazing community television.
Awesome. So today we're focusing on storytelling, and you produce features that rely heavily on storytelling. Can you tell us what a feature is and why that's important to you and community TV?
Sure. Yeah. So our feature stories with Shaw Spotlight are basically like small mini documentaries about people in the community, kind of focusing on their passions and kind of why they do what they do. And learning a little bit more about the people that we have in our community. For me, kind of personally, features are a big way for me to connect with my community, but also to share kind of the amazing people kind of that you don't see all the time, or that you do see all the time and you just don't know a lot about. Especially here in Fort McMurray. I mean, sometimes this community gets a bad rap for being a certain way, and I love being able to show like the diverse set of people that we have kind of in our community, and the amazing work that they do.
Absolutely. Great. So you recently won a Spotlight Screen Award for Best Editing for
It's
Not
over there.
Forgotten in the background there. Awesome. And that was also featured in the Montreal International History Festival, I understand.
There's a laurel right there. Yeah, it was
Awesome.
really awesome. Yeah, it was really cool.
That is cool, yeah. So with that story, what was the original one that you planned to tell?
Yes, we are talking about pivoting and storytelling. So the original version of Not Forgotten was kind of like, it wasn't even called Not Forgotten at this point. It was kind of just like Torchy builds a shipyard. So the original story was kind of about Torchy Peden. He does or was involved with the building of the Heritage Shipyard here in Fort McMurray. It's kind of like a historical site that kind of showcases the old shipyard that we used to have in Fort McMurray, which was kind of unique. Fort McMurray is not like near the ocean, so it's kind of weird that it would have a shipyard, but we had like a very extensive river system. So the original story was him talking about the original shipyard, what it kind of looked like, but then showing us what they did to kind of bring it back to life and showcase it in the community so people could learn about it. So he was taking us through the shipyard, showing us the area and kind of what went on and how they kind of got it started. So it was very simple, almost very cookie cutter. It was kind of like get in, interview, show me the shipyard, get out. So that was kind of what the original plan was.
But we've alluded to a need to pivot. So
Yes.
what ended up happening that caused you to need to pivot?
So while Torchy was giving us the 3-hour tour of the river, Gilligan's Island style, without the shipwreck, he was showing us around the shipyard, and we were going along the waterfront, and along the river there's a lot of like old, like decommissioned dock stuff, right? There's wood in the water, there's old just old stuff just everywhere. And we were driving along and we found like a piece of a boat, like an engine piece in the river, and Torchy had heard that they were there, heard that they had been unburied. Like they'd probably been there for a long, long time. And with erosion, they probably just finally got revealed so we could see them. And his face just lit up when he saw them. Like it was amazing. So we quickly checked them out. And from then on, we did the rest of our tour, but in the back of our mind, we were like, man, how cool would it be if that was like something interesting, if that was something important to the history of the shipyard, and how cool it would be to like film that being reclaimed by the Heritage Society. So that was kind of like the pivoting point where I was thinking about, man, how cool would it be if this actually happened?
Totally. Yeah. We do actually have a behind the scenes clip of you both making that discovery. We will roll that right now.
What is it? Looks like two steam pistons off of stern wheeler. Take a picture of it, Chad. I heard they were here. Something we should think about trying to dig up. Look at the old motor block. Wow. That's really interesting.
Wild how much stuff just gets left behind.
You know, it's hard to say. It really is. You know, you look at that stuff and you think, how did it get there? Like, why would it be there? Hard to say how it got there. It really is. Sort of a shame in a way, for sure. Should be pulled out of there.
Yeah.
And there it was.
Yeah.
Came something unexpected. So how did the overall story change at that point?
So at that point, there was a lot of discussion whether or not it would be like feasible for us to even pull it out, if it was even something historically relevant. I mean, it's cool, but like, did this shipyard really need that? They had like complete engines in ships already, so like, did they really need this? So a couple things changed. We originally had one character, Chad, in the story. He's our contact with the Heritage Society. He's a part of the collections. So he was kind of my contact, getting in touch with Torchy, showing me the shipyard. But his role changed into being the guy researching the thing we found in the river. So he became more of like an integral piece, which meant I wanted to have him on camera more. I wanted to hear his story a little bit more. So we pivoted away from Torchy showing us the shipyard to focusing on really reclaiming something right now, like live recovery almost, instead of something that had happened a long time ago. So our story changed definitely, character wise, and also in the story aspect, where we took our focus away from something and pivoted it towards a different aspect of the same story. So a lot of the stuff we had already shot, it kind of worked, but not in the way I had originally planned. So I shuffled some stuff around in editing to make it better. And I'm actually, when I put that behind the scenes clip together for you guys, I was like, man, why didn't I put this in here? Like this is like a really good piece, but I think it was just a little bit too long to fit in our mini doc. But yeah.
Yeah. And thus it became not forgotten.
And then and now
cool.
it's not forgotten. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We found a piece, and it actually did turn out to be something pretty interesting. It was a piece of an old like paddle wheeler engine. So it was historically relevant. I don't know if they've put it up in the shipyard yet. I think that's probably happening this coming year or so, but yeah, it'll be cool to go visit that and say, hey, I filmed that. I filmed us pulling that out of the river. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, like rewarding. Really cool.
Yeah, really rewarding actually. Like that was almost like the piece for me that where I was like, wow, I was actually part of something like historically relevant, and like not like life changing for anyone, but like really cool to be part of something that just happened, and I was in the right place at the right time to be a part of it. So is really cool.
Yeah. Um, when it comes to storytelling, what advice do you have for other aspiring producers or content creators?
Oh man, advice already. We're at the advice part. Let's see. Well, I'd probably say always keep rolling. That was one thing when we were first filming. I was like, man, maybe I don't need this. Maybe I'll stop recording. And that was kind of when we found that piece in the river. So it was like,
Yeah.
from then on, it's like continue recording at all times because you never know what piece you're gonna find that's gonna be you're gonna need in your story, or you're gonna want to put in, or you're gonna want to pivot to later. So that's one piece. And I think for storytelling wise, I think some advice I'd give would be just to be like always open to things that are going on around the story, not just like your hyper focused, this is what we're doing. I think being able to look at something that's happening or look at your story kind of objectively from the outside and be like, is this more important? Is this more important? To be able to look at that and be like, oh, maybe my idea is not as good as this is, or not, or could be better if I do this. Um, that's not to say like just pivot to everything that happens like immediately, but if it's something that, like for ours, was maybe like once every like 10-20 years, maybe they find something, so it wasn't going to happen in like maybe in Torchy's lifetime again. So it was really important for me to be a part of that and like be that part of his story, because the piece was about him. So I wanted something that would like really tell us who he is. And I think we really saw, you see more of your subject when they're actually doing something, not when they're just talking about it. And you really saw Torchy get into it when we were out there, like looking at it at first and then getting it out of the river. And yeah, I think that's the advice I'd give, would just be to like be aware of things that are going on and be ready to make those decisions.
Yeah. Awesome. Like, yeah, seize the moment. Yeah. Cool.
And
It
even
was
if you're
lucky.
not going to pivot, and even if you're not going to pivot to it, just like capture it, at least get it,
Yes.
so that at some point you can be like, okay, now we can maybe do something on it later, or you know what, we are going to throw that in and it is going to be the main part of the story because we already got it. So we may as well, even if it takes more time. I think a lot of people too, they don't want to, when they're telling a story, they're like, oh, I don't really have time to go here and go here and go here and do this, but you never know what's going to be an amazing capture of something. So it's always better to take the time and, spend a little more time on something just to make it that much better.
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's a great piece.
Thank
Before
you.
we move on to yeah, the question part, is there anything else you'd like to add that we didn't touch on?
No, I think you really covered almost everything. Yeah, Not Forgotten was like a really cool way of telling a story that I hadn't. It's kind of the first one that I've ever done that was like something was happening right there and it was live, and it was like, you can tell in the filming style, like it was just me out there filming with a camera. It was in a very like run and gun, like live style, which I think like really worked for it. But at the same time, it was like kind of scary because I'm like, don't miss this, don't miss this. Oh, get his face here. Oh, make sure you get that. So there was a lot more than just like the storytelling where it was like, this is what's being said, this is kind of where we're going. It was like, storytelling is a lot of filming as well. Like visual storytelling was really important for that one too, because a lot of the time I'm not going to have Torchy saying, now we pulled it out of the river and now we did this and now we did that. I just need to show it. So I was there filming them pulling it out. But I needed to tell that story in a way that was not just like, oh, we yanked it out of the river. So yeah, and I think that's another thing of advice too, is like, make sure your visual storytelling is kind of matching your storytelling. I guess your written storytelling. Yeah, the visual storytelling. I mean, we're in video, and audio storytelling also. Like, there's so much that goes into sound design, into editing, into filming, that tells the story, like, and not to like neglect any of those for one piece of it, is really important.
So it makes it more, engaging than just to say it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We do have a few questions. First one comes from Kevin. So Kevin says, how did you find out about this story? And did you approach him, or did he approach you?
Yeah, so kind of part of doing Shaw Spotlight features is we go out and find a lot of this stuff. And I had kind of seen the Heritage Shipyard driving by. I'd been there a few times filming different things. And I thought it would be kind of cool to learn about the history of it. I didn't know Torchy was involved at all. I didn't know him. And now we're like best friends. Like, I think we're going fishing this summer.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was really cool to meet him, and his passion for preserving the history of Fort McMurray Shipyard was like infectious. So like I always wanted to like just keep doing more and more and more with him. Like we were going to do a whole access series with him about the shipyard, which I think we still are. But I definitely approached, it was kind of like a two-way approach. Like I heard about him from the Heritage Society, and then I approached him, and he kind of also approached me at the same time. We were like, what if we did this? And or maybe we could do this. And I was like, why don't we do a feature instead? This sounds amazing. You sound like a really interesting individual. So that's kind of how that happened.
That's
Through,
cool.
I guess like Chad really set me up with him. Like Chad was the guy that was like, you know who you should talk to? Don't talk to me because I'm terrible on camera. Talk to Torchy because he was there at the beginning. So yeah, it was really cool.
A little collaboration. Cool. Zoe says, what do you look for in a story subject?
Oh, story subjects. Yeah, that's a tough one. Sometimes when you think or you have a story idea, sometimes the people attached to that story are not good on camera. Sometimes they're just not. Sometimes they're nervous. Sometimes they just don't want to commit to something that's like a kind of a process. So when I look for feature subjects, I kind of look for people who first that like they want to be involved and they're excited to tell their story, because that means their passion and their stuff is going to come through no matter how awkward they are on camera. And then the second, I think, story wise, I always personally, now that I've done Not Forgotten, I'm always looking for stuff where I can film things that are happening. Just like the impact and power of showing something that actually happened. It's like intoxicating now. I'm like, I have to do it. I think it just like adds a little bit more, not humanity, but like I feel like people can trust my storytelling more when they see something on screen that's actually happening or actually happened. And it kind of brings them in and like they're part of something that they weren't there for. Like that's kind of what my storytelling style is now, is like bringing people in to people's lives. Like I did a story on football as well. I think that won best cinematography. That one was not to toot my own horn there, just say that one again. Like I brought people in to this girl's football life, like and how and just like what she does on a daily basis and like going to games, but like showing it in a way that's like this is happening right now and you're here with me. So that's kind of the stuff I look for now is are you doing anything? Is something happening right now that we can show?
And that football one, that was called Because of the Game. Was that filmed after the Not Forgotten piece?
Yes, yeah, that one was well afterwards. I think Torchy's piece was in October, November, and that one was in June.
Okay,
so had some time to like think.
Yeah, so it's really that Not Forgotten piece. It's really influenced how you've like approached things since.
Yeah, I think it's like completely not. I want to say it revolutionized, but it's just like it pivoted my own way of doing things. Because I just found it much more enjoyable. It doesn't work for every story. Sometimes you can't show things that are actually happening.
Hmm.
Either like they're too sensitive, like people can't be on camera or something, um, or just nothing's happening. It's all been in the past, or it's all mental stuff, like people are dealing with maybe with mental health issues or something. You can't really show things that are happening, and
Hmm.
most people don't want to be in therapy being filmed. I mean, that's not really
It's fair.
appropriate. So,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, I think it's really changed the way I like work just in general now. Even stuff outside of Shaw, when I do freelance work, it's like really influenced everything that I do.
That's cool. That's cool. We have another question from Chaz. So she says, it seemed like there were many people involved in getting the piece out. What did you do to keep your focus narrow and specific rather than including everyone who touched the recovery process?
Yes. Well, first, I think I did capture everyone. Um, when we were out in like when we were recovering the artifact and stuff, there were volunteers and stuff, and like Robbie's Towing helped us out. And they volunteered their time and services, which was really cool. So I got stuff from all of them in case I needed to either like fill some time if I was really, really short. Um, and if I wanted to add like maybe a little bit more personality to like the community aspect of it, but it ended up being kind of focused on its own because Torchy kind of like kept it nice and tight for me. He was, yeah, that's a tough one. I really wanted to, I really wanted to be like, it's a community project. Let's
Mm,
bring in everyone. Um, but again, a lot of our features are focused on an individual and their passion. So keeping it just to Torchy was like, it was pretty difficult for me because there were so many like interesting, helpful, like all these people like gave up of their time, and like Robbie Stoin gave up their like money like to help us
mm,
pull this thing out of the river. So I did give them a little bit of a thing at the end of it to say thank you, but I think I was able to kind of keep it specific to Torchy because this is what he did for everything in the shipyard. I mean, with a group of people as well, but he was kind of one of the leaders of it. So it was easy to keep it focused on his reaction and his way of um, kind of giving back to the community through um, preserving this artifact that we found. So I kind of
mm.
I just Torchy was a great subject. Like that's all I can say with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it was more like his story about him.
Mhm.
Cool. We have another question from James. So he says, at what point through the process did you realize you had a really compelling story to tell?
Oh, I think as soon as I met Torchy, I knew that he was going to be amazing. Like his story is just like he was there when the shipyard was still functioning, right? Like there's not a lot of people in town who have been around for that long and stayed. Like he left and came back, but like he was there as a kid. And that really like captured his imagination um and just his like passion for preserving that history. So that's kind of when I knew I wanted to talk to him and nobody else because he's amazing.
Mm,
And then I think as soon as we got to that kind of river, we found that thing in the river, and like we started talking about being able to pull it out, and Chad started doing research. That was kind of when I was like, okay, now I really gotta change my focus here. Like this is a lot bigger than I originally anticipated. So that's when I kind of I almost pushed other things aside for a bit and was like, okay, I really need to focus on making sure I'm capturing the right things for this, making sure I'm rewriting what I've got already done. Like, do we need to re-interview? Do I need to redo the entire interview I did with Torchy already, or can I use pieces? How do I move from here to here? How do I pivot my story to like not be about the shipyard itself and be more towards like preserving an actual piece of history now? So that's kind of when I knew it was going to be something I wanted to pursue rather than just kind of like get done and move on to the next thing.
Cool. Man, it's such an awesome, like, exciting thing to be a part of. So, like, congrats on all your success.
Thank you.
We appreciate that you joined us. We do have a question from Kathleen, who says, I might like to tell my own story. So we would like to mention that if you are interested in getting involved in community television, whether it's volunteering or creating your own show, you can visit our website, shawspotlight.ca, or visit us on social media, send us a message at shawspotlight. We may tell your story. So thanks again, Matt, for joining. Where can people find you if they want more of your content?
Sure, yeah. So on the Shaw Spotlight website, if you just go to our features and check out the Fort McMurray section, there's a lot of stuff from me there as well as my coworkers. And then on Instagram, I'm at the Matt Lorenz. Most of my stuff it's not posted on there, but there's usually some behind the scenes and some fun stuff on there from doing features. So
Cool. And that just about wraps up our show. We thank you, everyone, for joining, for your comments. It was fun. It was a fun time.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So
You can have
next
me.
month-
You can talk to me again. I don't mind.
Oh, excellent.
Anytime.
Perfect. Next month we will have another special guest. They will be discussing volunteering in community television. So please tune in next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.